Yeah, well, morning. Let's start with just morning. You can decide later whether or not it's a good, hopefully at least you got a good parking spot.
Yes.
Okay. I know I did because I've been here for a while. So, welcome to Biology 105. You made it. Biology majors and guests, honored guests. I think most of you are biology majors. Every time you come into class, or most of the times you come into class, you'll see that I've posted a little exercise while you're waiting, is what I call them. Just something to engage you in material before we start, if you're interested. These are optional. It's a way for me to collect feedback on student understanding of concepts that we've been talking about in class. So these are not required. They're not for points. That's why you can sign into todaysmeet.com anonymously with whatever nickname you want. Don't use your student ID number. Definitely don't share your student ID number. Okay. So today is going to be a pretty typical first day of class. We're going to talk a little bit about the syllabus. I'm going to talk a little bit about me. Unfortunately, it's a lot of me talking, which I hope you find is not going to be what most of the classes this term are going to be like. It's not going to be me talking for 50 minutes. That's the goal. Okay. We'll talk a little bit and we'll start using the tablets as well towards the end. I have, strangely enough, today is going to be pretty rare. I have a 9 o'clock meeting in the library, so I'm going to try to wrap a little bit before 8:50, so I'm not going to be able to hang around after class today to answer individual questions, but normally I would be able to. So a little bit about me and why I'm here. Like here up in front of the class talking to you. The evolutionary part of why am I here, maybe we'll get to later. I run a laboratory in biology across the hall. We're on the 3rd floor of science. And I study evolutionary genetics. I'm an evolutionary biologist. That's mainly why I'm here. I was hired by the department 4 years ago. I started in 2012 to teach evolution and to teach development. So this is my sweet spot. And that's why I'm excited to teach it, and I hope you are excited to learn about evolution. This is what my lab looked like last spring. We've evolved in the last year. The sex ratio has evened out a bit. Actually, it swung more towards more females than males in the lab. But we all work on this small nematode, well, it is a small nematode until you put it on a screen this size, C. briggsii, a close relative of C. elegans, which is a species some of you have probably heard about mentioned in a few classes. So we study the evolution of this nematode. And before that, I was a duck at University of Oregon, where I studied yeast, not beer. Well, by the way, I'm recording these lectures. That's why I'm using this app called Explain Everything to present. So what this app is doing is it's capturing what I'm saying and whether or not I use the laser pointer to draw your attention to parts of the slide, or if I use a marker to annotate the slide. All of this shows up in the video that I'm recording. And after every class, I post these to YouTube so that you always have my voice and what the slides are doing. So you don't see me. You get my voice, but you also get the annotations. So you're certainly free to do this as well on your tablets. And I'm not going to spend any time in class, although we're certainly happy to talk later, and you can always go to the Discovery Hub in the library to ask about how you might go about recording the lecture if you're interested in doing it. I'm just telling you I'm doing it also. Okay. So recording. So I did study beer a little bit personally as an undergraduate, but I studied yeast, right? You figured that out by now, I hope. And then after I got my bachelor's degree, for a couple of years, I was a research technician doing the 8-to-5 job doing bench research at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, which is in Seattle. So I'm a Northwesterner, which means I love all the rain and the clouds. And there I studied mouse noses. So I didn't actually touch the mice, I was just studying their genes. We were learning what genes allow mice and humans and other animals to detect odors in the air. We're studying the sense of smell and how it evolved. When I got my PhD, I studied the fish that's shown here, the 3-spined stickleback fish. And the main reason I'm telling you all of this is because you're probably going to see examples from these species over and over again as we go through this evolution class, because these are the species I'm most familiar with. We'll look at other species as well, but we'll see a few examples at least from these species. Any questions at this point? I stop a lot and ask you for questions, and I really value question asking. So I know we're all just, well, you're seniors. We're all just getting to know each other, except you probably all know each other by now. Any questions? So course philosophy. It's going to be a flipped classroom. I don't know if you've heard this approach before, but the idea is pretty simple. I ask you to read the material the day before class, or at least by the class when we're going to discuss that material. I don't necessarily, I probably should turn off the recording at this point, I don't necessarily want you to read deeply for complete understanding. I want you to read the material, skim it, see what seems familiar, what seems not familiar. Your goal should be to identify parts of the reading assignments that you're confused about, and come to class and bring questions about those content. Or at least be able to say, maybe if I do a while you're waiting exercise that is, what was the part of the reading assignment you understood least well? And you anonymously post that to todaysmeet.com, and then at the start of class I see, okay, everybody's telling me that they didn't understand this one concept from the reading. So we'll practice that in class. So this flipped classroom approach is basically you do the work in advance, as you always should, of course, but you access the material the first time on your own, solo. So I don't have to spend in-class time lecturing on it. I will a little bit, but mainly the in-class time is reserved for practicing and for talking about application and for discussing with each other and doing group exercises and solo exercises and actually using the material you learned by reading and applying it. That's my course philosophy. That's how the course is structured. So please do reading assignments and practice questions, not necessarily to completion. Do as much as you can before class. So sometimes at the end of class I will say, here's a question that I'd like you to address by the next class period. I would appreciate you at least spending a little bit of time thinking about those. That's a signal to you that that's what we're going to go into depth in the following class when we come back together. So if you stay up with assignments, come prepared to class, most of all, come prepared to ask questions. Anything you don't understand or just questions you have in general about evolution, we'll be having time in class to address. So this is how you succeed. Come with questions, read in advance, and most importantly, attend class, which is going to be harder and harder as the term goes on and you have to drag your weary butts out of bed to get in class at 8 in the morning. But as you probably saw in the syllabus, for those of you that did the assignment and read the syllabus for class today, most of the points in the class are divided among a midterm exam, a final exam, your term paper, and the big one, how many percent is attendance and participation? 45? 40? 40%. Participation, quizzes, attendance, and other assessments, which basically means that you don't get an A if you don't come to class, because in class, and usually at the start of class, unfortunately for you, we'll have some sort of, start or end, it'll randomize. There will be a quiz. It's a really small point quiz, usually not on any in-depth subject, just to check, did you read the material for that day? Maybe a 1 question or 2 question quiz, worth 1 or 2 points. But it's really critical to be here for those, and you can't make those up. That's participation. If you're not here, you can't make it up. The other reason it's important to be in class is because this is where you get feedback. You'll notice we don't have homework. There's no portion of the grade for doing homework assignments. There's no end of the chapter, answer these questions. I hated that. But they're important because that's how you get feedback on how well you're doing in this class. How well was I able to answer this question? That's how you get feedback. The way you get feedback and the way this class is structured is by coming to class and asking questions and participating in the in-class exercises. We'll spend in-class time then going over the answers to the exercises, and that's how you'll get self-feedback on how you understand the material. That's all course philosophy. My goal? There are some goals written in here, but my main goal is to prove to you that I'm not perfect and that I don't know everything about evolution. So I'm serious. I want you to come ask questions, and I want you to challenge me. Right, as soon-to-be biology or other major graduates, we want you to be independent thinkers and to be critically thinking about science. So I'd love it if you come challenge me, ask me difficult questions that I don't know the answer to. Right. I'm not here because I'm an expert in evolution. I've only studied a handful of topics in these organisms I showed you. I don't know everything about evolution. Nobody does. Right. I'm only here because I'm a little bit farther down the path of understanding evolution than all of you are. But you all bring something special to the topic of evolution. You're all experts or have unique experiences in your own ways. That's where sharing and asking questions comes into play. Okay. One more thing. So don't just take this from me. Just want to show a 2-minute video on why it's important to study science. So this should sort of frame the semester for us. This is Carl Sagan, for those of you that know Carl.
Pseudoscience and superstition and New Age so-called beliefs and fundamental zealotry are something new. They've been with us for as long as we've been human. But we live in an age based on science and technology with formidable technological powers.
Science and technology are propelling us forward at accelerating rates.
That's right. And
Rates,
we don't
not Rex.
understand it. By we, I mean the general public. If it's something that, oh, I'm not good at that, I don't know anything about it, then who is making all the decisions about science and technology that are going to determine what kind of future our children live in? Just some members of Congress? But there's no more than a handful of members.
This is an old video, but this is still true.
Science at all. And the Republican Congress has just abolished its own Office of Technology Assessment, the organization that gave them bipartisan, competent advice on science and technology. They say, we don't want to know. Don't tell us about science.
Surprising, it's the danger of all this. I mean, this is not the thing.
There's two kinds of dangers. One is what I just talked about, that we've arranged a society based on science and technology. Here is nobody understands anything about science and technology. And this combustible mixture of ignorance and power, sooner or later, is going to blow up in our faces. I mean, who is running the science and technology in a democracy if the people don't know anything about it? And the second reason that I'm worried about this is that science is more than a body of knowledge. It's a way of thinking, a way of skeptically interrogating
Ask questions.
the universe with a fine understanding of human fallibility.
We all make mistakes.
If we are not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious who comes ambling along. It's a thing that Jefferson laid great stress on. It wasn't enough, he said, to enshrine some rights in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The people had to be educated, and they had to practice their skepticism and their education. Otherwise, we don't run the government. The government runs us.
Okay, so that's my motivation as an instructor, is to produce a scientifically literate populace. You. So that's why I'm here. Okay. So does anybody have any questions at all about the syllabus? I'm not going to read it to you. You read it before class. Anything at all that was intriguing, interesting, worrying, concerning? I've got a few high points I'll cover, but I want to make sure I give time first for questions.
Could we possibly get information about a term paper early?
Could you get information about the term paper early? Like structure, how long,
All the details you would provide would be better.
word length? When did I say I was going to provide that information? Did I put that on the
Later on, I think.
term paper, topic due? Yeah, I will give that to you soon. Let me make a note. So information about the format and structure of the term paper. You'll note in the course schedule that I have put on certain dates some timeline. So the first thing I'll tell you, length, word limit, number of references, that sort of thing, is kind of irrelevant to me. There probably will be some format that way, but most importantly is picking a topic for your term paper. So all of you write the culminating experience term paper. Right? The point is to integrate what you've learned in genetics, ecology, biology, your elective classes into one body of work that all supports your understanding of evolution. And so each of you gets to pick what topic, which usually means what process or what organism you're interested in writing a term paper on. So as you start reading and we start this class this semester, you should be thinking actively about, okay, what is it that I'm really excited about that I can spend a lot of time writing a term paper on. So yes, details to come soon. Other questions about coursework, syllabus, grading, course structure? Please.
For your, I know you have one midterm exam.
Yes.
but Do you split your exam questions between lectures and what's in the book, or can we expect what you cover in lectures would be on exams?
So exam content. What's the content of the exam, the one midterm exam, and the final also going to be like? It's mostly going to come out of what we practice in class during lectures. So the reading is really to support your understanding and as a reference. And that's why I suggested at the start of class, skim it. You don't have to read it in depth because what I think is critical for your understanding of evolution, we'll practice in depth in class. So it's in-class exercises and activities and what we talk about in class that is the bulk of midterm and final. Let's see. For those of you that haven't purchased The Origin of Species yet, I just yesterday discovered that there are PDFs of the chapters online. So I apologize if you did buy it already. I just discovered this myself. I thought it was still copyrighted, but apparently there are some places where you can download it. So I will distribute that URL to you on Blackboard. Now that doesn't mean that they're better than buying the hard copy book. And some of you might like having the hard copy book, that's fine. But if you want to use a digital version, since we're a tablet class, and you can read PDFs on your tablets, if you like to read that way, I hate reading PDFs on a tablet, so I got the hard copy. But I will distribute that URL to you. Other questions? Another thing you should know about the course structure is before every class, I will upload whatever I'm going to display on my tablet as a PDF file onto Blackboard. So right now, before class, you could have, and maybe you did, go onto Blackboard and download these PDF slides. So if you want to, the way that students in my tablet classes in the past have used their tablets during class is to A, record what I'm doing, although as I said, I'm also doing that, and I will share that. And also to take notes by drawing on the tablet surface with your finger or stylus on top of the PDF slides I have. So then you have your notes on the PDF slides on your tablet, and you have my video of my notes on the same slides on YouTube. Just a suggestion, you don't have to take it, but that's the way a lot of students have operated in the past in these types of classes. For me, organizationally, one of the most important things I'd like to point out is I would appreciate it if everybody would use your official mail.fresnostate.edu address, both for emailing me and especially for signing up for any digital resources. You log into websites, when you create accounts on websites that we're going to use with the tablets during class, please, please, please use your official Fresno State email address, not your own personal Gmail address or something like that. Helps me keep track of who's doing what work. If you sign in with another non-Fresno State email address, you might not get the points that you would have earned. Wow, this thing's really long. Let's see. So the only other thing I'll point out is two things. We've got two textbooks. When you look in the last column of the course schedule, or the last column of the course schedule, reading assignment, when it says just chapter and then a number, that's the big textbook. And when it says origin chapter number, that's Origin of Species, right? So we got two textbooks, so that's how I coded which reading assignment is from which textbook. And right before the two exams, the class before will do a review session. That'll be in here, there won't be any new material. The way the review sessions work is I show up, those of you that have had me before know how this works. I show up, you ask me questions. So I don't prepare anything in advance. That's just your opportunity, one 50-minute period, to come ask me questions. Then the following class is the exam. Okay. The last class of the semester will be the review session for the final. Does that spark any new questions, concerns? Yes?
I'm sorry, could you explain? So when it just says origin, that means the origin of species?
Right, so when it says origin chapter 1, that means read Origin of Species chapter 1. When it just says chapter 4, that's the Bergstrom-Dugatkin chapter 4. And you'll see we don't read Origin nearly as much as we read the other textbook.
We should make notes in the book, like, specifically, in Origin.
So what should you be paying attention to when you read Origin, which was written so many years ago that the English structure just doesn't make sense, and it's more difficult to read. It's a more formal writing style, and it's British, and it was Uncle Charlie. What we'll focus on in the Origin of Species and the readings are examples. And so some of these examples you might want to draw on when you think about what topic to write about. Because you can guarantee if Charles Darwin wrote about it, there's been a lot of biological research on it since then, since he has become so prominent a figure. So when he talks about domestication of pigeons, that's something to focus on when we read the chapter on domestication. I don't want everybody to write about pigeons, and in fact, the reason that on the syllabus it says we're going to pick topics early on is for me to try to prevent duplication. So the goal is, how many of you are there? The goal is not to have any overlapping topics. We'll see. Normally my sections of evolution have been half this size, so welcome to Science 2, Room 109. Sorry for the squeaky chairs, but we'll have fun this semester anyway. So yes, Origin of Species. I will try my best to remember to remind you in advance of readings what I want you to focus on. I probably won't succeed in that all the time, and do remind me if I don't. Call me out. I'll do the same thing for the big textbook chapter readings. I'll try to suggest sections, not just read all of chapter 5. So read chapter 5, focus on section 5.2, something like that. That's my goal. Okay. So I already talked about I record videos. You can take notes. I post the lecture slides in advance. There are a number of apps that you should feel like using when you are in class if you want. You can just use a simple text edit program, type notes. You can use, there are a few apps that the Discovery Hub, correct me if I'm wrong, Ulysses, does iAnnotate PDF? Is that supported by the Hub?
I believe so.
Acrobat Reader?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Acrobat Reader is a good free app for every tablet platform to annotate PDFs. The Discovery Hub supports. Are there other PDF annotation programs? Ulysses, by the way, raise your hand, please. Ulysses is our guide on the go in class today and maybe for the next few days at least. Staff member of the Discovery Hub who's in class to help us deal with any technical issues should they arise. So Acrobat Reader, I suggested on the syllabus, what app did I suggest? I know other students have chosen to use iAnnotate PDF and Notability. I think both of those cost a little money. I try to pick only free apps, but those are other apps that you could look at purchasing if you're interested in taking notes in class. If you like, just print out the slides and take notes on them in paper and pen. There's no requirement for how you use your tablets during class by the way of note taking. So a typical class period, you'll come into class, there will be while you're waiting, please do this on the screen. So if you come early and you're interested in helping give me feedback on your understanding of the course material, participate in that. The next thing we'll do as soon as class starts is to do a quick summary. You will help me do a quick summary of what we talked about the previous class, and then we'll get into exercises, activities, short lectures, group work, and so forth for the bulk of the class. Then at the end of class, there will be some sort of exit activity on the tablet as well, a quiz, a short writing assignment, something for small amounts of points, nothing major. And we'll practice that today as well. Now, something new this term, aside from the tablets, or in addition to the tablets. I do human subjects research on how well students succeed with tablets as opposed to without tablets. So I've taught evolution without tablets in the past. Now I'm teaching evolution with tablets. This is my 4th semester teaching a tablet-based course, so I've got a lot of experience in how to help you use tablets in class. And this is all based on research that's been done that proves that what we're going to be doing using the tablets actually does help student success in the classroom. I'm still doing my own research on what exactly is it about tablets in the classroom that helps some students succeed and maybe others not. So this term I'm running that same research project in this class, and I'm asking you to participate in that research as human subjects. As such, that means the first thing I need to do is to get your consent to study you. I mean, I'm a scientist, we're all scientists, so I'm studying what I'm doing. And one of the assignments for next class is going to be to download a PDF that is the informed consent form for my study that I'd like you to read, and there are 2 lines at the bottom of this form to sign. There's the yes, I will participate, and there's the no, I won't. So your goal is download the PDF. I'll tell you all about how to do this in just a minute. To download the PDF, read it, and then sign one of the 2 lines. And the reason this is important is not just because I don't want to get thrown in jail for doing human subjects research on people that didn't agree, is that this is a workflow we're going to use a lot in class on the tablets. That is, I upload a PDF somewhere, you download it, you take notes on it, or you fill in answers, and then you send it back to me and I grade it. This is not graded. This informed consent form is just for completion. That's why there are 2 signature lines. I just want to see that you know how to use your tablet to draw your signature on a form and send that annotated PDF document back to me. We're going to use this in quizzes, tests, assignments, in-class activities all semester long. So we're just going to start with this one simple one. So that will be due by next class. And in just a minute, I'll give you a little bit more detail about that assignment. So a really important thing then, the way that I'm going to distribute a lot of the PDFs during class, one way is on Blackboard in the course documents folder. The other one, which we'll use more frequently for activities and exercises that you will turn in, is Google Classroom. So there's a URL on the front page of the syllabus, about halfway down, that says Google Classroom. That's the URL for our course, Google Classroom, which means there are, unfortunately, I apologize, 2 places to look for information. We're going to actively work with Google Classroom, which is web-based, it's a website, for me to distribute items to you and for you to turn them in to me. We're going to use Blackboard mainly for me distributing lecture slides to you that I don't expect to get back to you. So static content, URLs, course information, announcements, the boring stuff is going to be on Blackboard. Activities that I expect you to turn back into me, I will send to you through Google Classroom. So if you haven't registered with Google Classroom already, you just go to the URL and then enter the add code that's just underneath it. And that's how you get access to our course, Google Classroom. This is one of those places where you need to use your mail.fresnostate.edu account to register with our class. If you use a personal Gmail account, you'll register. In fact, it might not let you, but if it does, that'll screw everything up for you personally. So if you happen to have already registered, what I'm going to do now is launch these 2 assignments. The first one is the informed consent form. So if you don't have the music turned down on your tablets right now, I'm going to start hearing a bunch of beep, boop, beep, boop, boop, as each of you get notifications that something's been assigned to the Google class. And if you haven't signed up already, that's fine. You'll still get this assignment when you do register for the class. So what your job is for next class, again, is to download this PDF from Google Classroom on your tablet, open it, sign it, and then attach that saved, signed PDF back to this Google Classroom assignment. To help you out, I've posted a short YouTube video on this already to YouTube, and I'll share that URL with you immediately. So you can look at a video of how to do PDF annotation on a tablet. The other main way to go about getting help with this is the Discovery Hub. So try it on your own. If you have issues, look at the YouTube video I posted and the Discovery Hub for help as well. We'll have a little bit more in-class time, maybe next class, to walk through particular issues if you have them. But again, PDF annotation is really critical. So work on that between just after class and our next class meeting. Any questions? There's one other assignment I'm going to post on Google Classroom. That's more fun. Well, I hope it's more fun. And this is, again, something for you to do by next class. I'd like you to take a selfie and send it to me. If you don't know what a selfie is, ask your neighbor. Or help each other take selfies if you want. The reason I do this is twofold. First, it's another workflow that we're going to use during the term. I assume that most of you will pretty easily be able to figure out how to use the camera app on your tablet. If not, there's always help. You can come talk to me, our Discovery, our Guide on the Go, or the Discovery Hub. More importantly, we're going to use the camera a lot during the semester, and so I want you to practice the workflow of taking a picture and sending it to me through Google Classroom. So briefly, the way this works is you take a picture with your camera app on your tablet that's built in. You can attach that file. You open Google Classroom, you click on the paperclip icon, probably, attach a file, go to your camera roll, pick the picture you want to attach, submit the assignment back to me. So again, that also, two things due next class. Informed consent form, you agree or not agree to participate, and a selfie with your name on it. And that's for me also to help understand who you are, what your names are, and attach names and faces. There are too many of you for me to learn it all during class this semester. So I use these as a resource for me to help get to know you. Questions or concerns? Okay. The last thing we're going to do today is a couple more tablet-related things. So we've already talked about that. Questions? Laughter? Concerns? What's up? Real concerns? Any concern is a real concern, please.
Can you provide the link to the Wellness Basics PDF?
Yes, right. So I will send out, this will be any announcements, course changes, syllabus changes, anything like that will always be posted to Blackboard. So I will post to Blackboard the origin URL. That'll happen later today. So the final thing I want you to work on, please, this is our first real in-depth tablet usage, is to take a quiz on the syllabus. So hang on just a second, I have to launch the quiz. So this uses this app called Socrative, which we're going to use a lot during the term. So this is important. When you launch this app, it's first going to ask you what classroom you want to join. That's our classroom number all term, 240820. We'll memorize it as I already have. And then please, every time it asks you to put in your name, please follow their format, last name, comma, first name. Don't put your student ID number in, just last name, comma, first name. And then you go ahead and when you continue, then it'll ask you a bunch of questions that I've written about the syllabus today. For example, this is 4 attendance/participation points. If you get answers wrong, that's fine. This is just taking attendance today, essentially. In the future, these sorts of quizzes might be worth more points. Does anybody here not have Socrative Student installed? Okay, so yeah, you can install it right now if you like. For those of you that don't, you can also go to open a web browser.
You said not to put a student ID in.
Right, do not put your student ID in. You can go to the website b.socrative.com if you open a web browser, if you don't have the app yet, and do exactly the same thing. You can have the app or you can use the website. Either is fine.
So, like, when the first question says, enter your student ID number.
Oh, so I'm sorry. So when the first question says, enter your student ID number, please do. I'm sorry. I misunderstood the original question. Yes. The room number? That's the same one. That's this 240820. So that's what you need to get into our evolution Socrative classroom and access this quiz. So raise a hand if you've got any technical issues. Feel free to collaborate with a neighbor if you want on the quiz, because again, it's for completion, not for, and I'd rather you talk to each other about questions you have about these quiz questions. So when you're done, you're free to go. Again, raise your hand if you've got any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you all next class period after we come back together. So here's what you're supposed to do for next class. So I've got YouTube videos on PDF annotation that are posted on the course YouTube site, which again, the URL for is on the front page of the syllabus. So if you go to that YouTube URL, that's our class's YouTube stream. So I've got one on using this app called Zoto, which is free for all 3 of the tablet platforms that are in the classroom. You can also use Adobe Reader if you want a free PDF annotation app. I posted a video on how to use that on YouTube. So use that as a resource, and then reading chapter 1 of the textbook and chapter 1 of The Origin of Species for Friday. Skim. Don't feel like you have to read in depth. So that's what's due next class.